Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of The Room at the End of the Hall. Now, like all of my stories, this one also began as a creepypasta written on another platform. It's a story that I really liked because I feel like we've all been there. You know, we've all stayed up late, maybe a little too late, and we lay half asleep and trying to get comfortable in bed when suddenly we hear some noise. That makes us question whether or not we want to find out what's going on. And sometimes it can be hard to convince ourselves that whatever it is, it probably isn't dangerous. So I thought I would share the original creepypasta here for you to enjoy. But first, thank you to our top 3 supporters who are listed on screen right now. If you would like to support the show, please check the description box. And let's begin. They say the scariest moments happen not in the middle of the night, but in the quiet seconds just before sleep. Tonight, I'll tell you about a room that was never supposed to exist. A while ago, I found an apartment with long, dark hallways, peeling wallpaper, and a constant hum in the pipes, as if the walls themselves were breathing. The building was old, strange, and utterly alone on a block full of upscale condos. It was cheap, though, and after a string of bad luck with roommates, I needed somewhere of my own. So I signed the lease without hesitation. The landlord seemed nice enough, a gaunt, gray-haired man who looked like he hadn't seen the sun in decades. He showed me around the building, pointed out the laundry room, and tried to give me the Wi-Fi password 3 times before I finally wrote it down. But he kept warning me to stay away from the 4th floor. It's nothing, he said, waving dismissively when I asked why. Just don't go up there, all right? He handed me the keys and left. So naturally, the first place I went after settling in was the 4th floor. The hallway was longer than any I'd seen before, lined with identical doors, each one sealed with red tape except the last. That door had no markings and the red tape had been peeled away. Curiosity got the better of me. I knew I should leave it alone, but as I made my way to the end of the hall, I felt a growing sense of dread and a strange urge to open the door. The landlord had warned me, but when I reached out to knock, the door swung open on its own, revealing an abyss. I mean, nothing on the other side, just darkness. I hesitated, feeling a sudden chill, then stepped through the doorway. I wasn't expecting anything, so when the floor beneath me gave way, I fell. I landed on soft grass, surprised to find myself outside. As I dusted myself off, I noticed I was in a small courtyard, secluded and hidden from the street. I wandered around, finding nothing but overgrown bushes and broken statues. As dusk fell, I started to panic. I had no cell service and the gate was locked. And just then, I heard voices. 2 men rounded the corner, rounding the last of their shift at the building. "You come in late," one of them said. I froze, listening as they approached the gate. "Nothing ever happens here," the other replied. "It's not normal. Why else would the landlord keep it locked after hours?" Their footsteps faded away and I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I managed to find a weak spot in the bushes where I could see over the gate and waited until dawn. Once the street was busy again, I flagged down a passing cyclist and asked him to call the police. After explaining my situation, I watched as several squad cars raced down the street, but none of them stopped. Then I saw the landlord standing by a squad car speaking with an officer. When they saw me, the officer approached and asked me a few questions, but then he too spoke with the landlord and excused himself. They told me the landlord had called them to inform them of a trespassing incident, and since I had no ID or proof of address, they had no choice but to assume I was lying and let me go with a warning. Angry and confused, I returned to the building. On the way up to the 4th floor, I passed a woman in the hall, pushing a baby carriage. She smiled at me and I forced one back, but she didn't respond. It felt wrong, like a corpse being exhumed. I hurried on, avoiding her eyes and pressing my back against the wall. When I reached the 4th floor, I found the door to the courtyard ajar. Something compelled me to push it open and I stepped through. Back inside the building, the men were there again, along with the woman and child. She was standing in front of the door, blocking it. The men were whispering urgently, gesturing wildly as if pleading with her. I froze, unsure what to do. Then the child started crying. The woman's eyes widened in panic and she pushed past me, rushing into the room at the end of the hall. The 2 men followed her, closing the door behind them. I stood there a moment, debating whether I should follow them, but then decided against it. I started to walk away, but then the doorknob rattled violently. I spun around to see the door opening slowly, revealing the woman. Her face was streaked with tears and her hair hung in her face. "Please," she whispered, reaching out to me. "Please help me." Without thinking, I reached out and grabbed her hand. She pulled me into the room, then slammed the door shut. We were plunged into darkness. "What's wrong?" I asked, but before she could answer, the lights flickered on. My eyes burned as I struggled to adapt. When I could see again, I found myself in a narrow room. It stretched far into the distance, impossible, like the hallway. In fact, it was exactly like the hallway. And at the very end, barely visible in the shadows, someone stood facing the wall. The woman was staring at him, a look of utter terror on her face. I noticed a rocking chair beside her, empty. And then I realized the horrifying truth. The room was a tomb, a long, dark corridor that stretched into oblivion. The doorknob, the figures at the end, the rocking chair, it was all part of a macabre game, a twisted test. And somehow I had just become the new player. I wanted to scream, to run, but terror rooted me to the spot. Then I heard the scratching sound again, closer this time, and as the creature took another step forward, I could see it more clearly. It had no face. I don't remember much after that. I think I fainted. I woke up lying in my bed. Relief flooded me as I realized it had all been a dream. I sat up, still shaky. Then I heard it again, 3 slow knocks. This time, not from the hall, but from inside my closet. So before you go to sleep tonight, make sure your closet door is shut tight, because once you hear the knocking, it's already too late. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up button. It helps bring more creepypastas to more people. If you would like to submit your own scary story for consideration, please check the description box. And if you would like to send me a message directly, please check the contact information below. Thank you again for watching and I'll see you next time.